So today I'm going to show you how to get some of the best items early in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and also for free. This includes some amazing armors, this really excellent Knight Greatsword, and thousands upon thousands of Groschen really quickly. Plus, of course, a free horse. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, right from the very prologue area, once you hit the lakeside camp, immediately go ahead and do the following two things to better prepare for later on. First of all, behind this guy with the dice game, there's going to be a cave opening, and inside of it, there's a treasure chest that gives you the weighted die. It's one of the best in the game for the dice matches, as it has a very strong chance to land on number 1. So only use it to win this match against him and then put it right back before actually progressing in the prologue. Trust me, you're going to revisit this place yet again, and that's why I also recommend putting any Groschen that you have in the same container. You're not going to have the same 1400 once you get it again, only like a couple of hundred, but it's still going to be very useful to have both of these by the time you hit this place again. Fast forward to a bit later, we're going to eventually hit Troskovitz, and at this point you're pretty much left off butt naked with not much in your name. So in this case, immediately talk to Bara right here and start inquiring about some of the nearby stuff. The first should be about Master Tomcat, as this is going to open up the combat training, plus pinpoint his location on the map. This is going to give you one of the best abilities in the game called the Master Strikes, plus a couple of extra combos as well. Besides that, also go ahead and seek some help with all of these options. If you ask about clothing, she is going to give you a lockpick, which is going to be very useful in just a little bit. If you go and ask about some of the other stuff, she can give you some extra money. If you go ahead and inquire about a horse, she's going to give you some general information about where you can retrieve one. In this case, we're going to go to Semin in just a little bit. Now from here, we're going to uncover the location of a von Berghoff soldier's grave that holds a very powerful shield and some early on items. You can find it right here just south of Troskovitz, very close to town, but you can equally ask the bailiff in town who's going to reveal the same information to you if you want to go with that route. But besides that, we're going to need a spade to uncover that grave. So unless you're planning to go back to Bozhena, which is very far away, to get that spade for free from her, what I recommend doing is buying it from the trader in town. So for that, I'm going to show you a quick money making method right here using honey. So there are many honey spots right behind one of the houses right here in Troskovitz, and in total there's about like 50 honey you can collect from all of these honeybee spots on this very hill. Plus, honey is one of the best foods in the game, gives a ton of nourishment without ever decaying or becoming spoiled. But the best way to sell it is going to be right here at one of the maidens at the nearby inn. Go ahead, sell a bunch, but also keep a few for later on. Once you do have about like 20 Groschen or so, from this point on, you can now go to the trader in Troskovitz, and as you can see, he actually sells one spade for about 7 or so Groschen. I recommend to also do some bargaining for some better prices and extra XP, but from this point on, we're going to head over towards the first destination, which is one of the best axes in the game. So you're going to find it right here across the street going down towards Jezek's house. You're going to find him by the side of this barn / workshop, but if you go inside and pay attention to the table in the back, you're going to notice the Skalit's axe. This is one of the best axes in the first map that I was able to find. The next best has like 10 less damage than it, so it's 85 damage right from the very beginning. Very strong, very good to have, and will help a ton, especially if you're fighting armored enemies. Now from here, we're pretty much ready to go and retrieve the items from that soldier's grave. So head over down south towards it, and eventually you're going to find it right here by the side of this rock. We can now dig it up, and this is going to give us one of the best shields in the game, the von Berghoff Knight Shield. Plus, you can also retrieve the items from the body, including a mace and some other armor pieces in here too. But specifically, that shield doesn't just look awesome, it's also going to give you one of the best defenses in the game. It's pretty much the second best in the entire chapter area, basically. I don't think there's even anything better at this point, unless maybe you're stealing one from a very powerful enemy. But it looks really awesome, and now you pretty much have weapon, shield, and a bit of armor to get going. However, we're not done just yet, and by the time you're gonna be leaving town, I'm gonna make you look like a freaking nobleman. So what we're gonna do now is head over back right in front of the inn right here and just pass the time to midnight. You guessed it, because we're gonna be doing a bit of robbery. This is the point. I also recommend using your savior schnapps to make one of your first permanent save games, just in case something goes horribly wrong. Now, the two spots we're going to be hitting is the tailor shop, which has some of the best gear in the game for high charisma, but later on also the barracks, which is going to give us one of the best armor sets at this stage. So I'm going to go ahead and change to my nighttime attire, which is basically me naked, because we want our noise level to be as close as possible to 0 so that we don't alert anybody while we're prowling around. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead at the tailor shop first, and I'm not going to go through the main shop door, as that has a hard difficulty lock, which means it has a very high chance to destroy our lockpick at this stage. Since it's the only one, instead I'm going to go ahead and steal it right from the shopkeeper, who just so happens to live in the house right next to the shop. So I'm going to go ahead and break out the locks here, which are on a very easy difficulty. If you want a quick breakdown how you can lockpick, it's pretty easy. Just go ahead and search with the mouse or equivalent up until you see that circle becoming golden. And from that point on, keeping it in that exact same spot, spin it at the same time with the entire mechanism, pressing the D button. So you're going to have to match both the rotations at the same time, which is going to very easily open up the door. We're going to do that a second time with the bedroom door. Just go ahead, match it until it's golden, and then keep it at that same relative position as you're rotating that mechanism, which is going to easily open that up. And from this point on, we can just sneak at the main bed, where we will find the shopkeeper. On one of the sides of the bed, it's sometimes going to be random. And we have to rob him, which is going to open up this minigame right here. So here are some tips to always be successful at it. So first of all, hold down the rob button and let that timer go up, but not by too much. You don't want the interior of it to become too red, otherwise this means that he's going to notice you and you're pretty much going to fail. So just wait until that red is like a couple of shades before completely bright. Point at which you can press E again, and this is going to bring you to the second minigame. In this one, you're going to have to pretty much filter through all of these question marks, as behind them there's going to be a different item. Sometimes it's Groschen, sometimes it's maybe a food, but what we're looking for specifically are keys. However, keep in mind that once you grab those, they will subtract a bit of that timer that's going to continuously go down, corresponding to the number of seconds that you had in the first part of the minigame. So in this case, it was about like 16 or so seconds. So immediately grab them. Usually they are on the opposite side of the entrance, and then head over back to the entrance and press E to exit. You have to do this in order, otherwise it's also going to fail. Now, very strange is that this is the first time this is a master key for me, so this is also going to open up all of the chests in the area, including the one next to the bed, which holds a bunch of other items and some Groschen, but especially so the one you're going to see in the shop with even more gear. So this is very rare to happen, but I'm glad it did for this video. However, we're gonna make our way out, we're gonna close all the doors back again so we don't raise any suspicion, and then head over into the shop itself, which lo and behold is fully openable now. So inside we have all of these items right here, which are the highest in terms of selling power, so they cost like 360 plus, but realistically we're gonna sell them for about like 80 to 100 and a bit. But we also have all of these other items right here that we can go ahead and grab. But like I said, we for some reason got a chance to also open up the chest. So again, this is going to give you the same items as the shopkeeper had in his selling screen. So we can pretty much go ahead and take all the burger hats and other burger gear. That's going to be the one that has the highest level of charisma. Plus, we can also get the 360 plus Groschen that all vendor NPCs have by default. So in total, we're going to have like 600 just from this night of robbing alone. And you can see right here how it looks like. We're gonna have a ton of charisma. You can pretty much hit 20 plus charisma with basically no leveling and no points very easily from this stage, or at the very least like plus 15, which is going to be very good to convince most people that you are indeed a nobleman. If you're fast enough, you can even hit multiple spots the same night. And on that note, I also recommend hitting up that carpenter's house nearby where we got the honey previously. One of the chests actually has a ton of weaponry, so you can get one of your first starting bows here, one of the best crossbows, plus ammunition for them. There's like a couple hundred extra Groschen inside, plus many lockpicks and even some of these armor kits that you can use to repair your gear for free. So very worth it, and once you're done with that, you can now proceed to the next step. But whatever you do, make absolutely sure that you don't display any of that gear just yet. In fact, don't even wear it on your character, and even have it transferred to your horse the moment you get a chance to do so. For now, just switch to your normal gear that hasn't been stolen, or even stay naked. We now have to wait 2 or 3 days for the steel icon to pass away from the gear that we just got. So for that, we're gonna now do that at the same time with getting our first horse, our first permanent horse for that matter. So from here, just a bit south from the same location, you're going to notice this pasture with a bunch of horses. While it's still nighttime, go ahead and steal one. This is not going to be our permanent horse, it's just going to make the travel much faster to the place that gives us our first free horse. Stolen horses will eventually go back at their place of location. So from here, what we're going to do is head over southwest towards Semin, just following this middle main road right here. And on the way, you can create your outfit if you want to. Like I said, 25 plus charisma is very attainable even at this stage, but we're not going to enter Semin just yet. Otherwise, people will notice that this gear is stolen. Instead, right next to it, there is this camp, and you can go ahead and rest here for a couple of days until all of those steel icons go away. So as you can see, even after one single day of waiting, most of these icons are pretty much now gone, and only the most expensive gear still has it, meaning that if we wait another day or two, that's going to also apply to them eventually. And now that we're done, we can pretty much go ahead and convince anybody of anything because of our high charisma. So I'm going to go inside of Semin, maybe wash my face a little bit, and talk to the stable master in the back. The moment you hit this spot, you're going to notice Pebbles. Pebbles was your first companion, and she was actually somehow brought here, but we can actually get her back for free if we are convincing enough without paying any extra source of money. You can of course also buy some of the other horses, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk to this guy right here. Now, if you don't want to risk the charisma check, there's a surefire way to always get the horse anyway by just picking the first non-skill check dialogue and then picking the be reasonable one. Eventually, he's going to cave in, he's going to recognize that he bought a stolen horse, and he's going to recognize you as the owner and will give you that horse for free, plus some saddle and some stirrups for you to start out. And that's going to be good enough. What we can do now is apply those to the horse, which is going to increase some of its capacity. But since we also stole some of the other horse gear, you can also have this really cool armor for it. You can at least keep one of them for the horse in the meantime and sell the others. And as you can see, we're pretty much looking very dapper at this point. The horse looks awesome, we look awesome. Pretty much nobody suspects that we are anything but a very wealthy nobleman. Unless, of course, they spot that you have stolen items, case in which you're pretty much going to go to jail. But we're not quite just done yet, so we still have that armor set we want to get, and for that we're gonna need to head over back to Trotsky. And in this case, because we look so distinguished, pretty much everybody in town will be very helpful towards us, at least way more than before. Even the innkeeper that we caused so much trouble before will be more than helpful towards us, so you can go ahead, and I recommend going ahead and renting the bed here permanently to sleep and save your game in without consuming any of your savior schnapps. So go ahead behind this cart in the barn area and just sleep up until midnight, which is also going to give you a permanent save file right away. And from this point on, we can go ahead and just rob the barracks. So you're going to notice that the bailiff's office is very well protected, but only from the front and the bit in the back. So what we're going to do is head over to the side of it, immediately extinguish our torch, and immediately switch to our nighttime outfit. By this stage, you should have some clothing to help with that. Otherwise, again, go in naked. But in this case, before going inside of the area, there's this small little place with one of the guards by the wall, which you can easily rob for one of its keys right away. If it doesn't work on the first time, or if the timer is too low, just cancel it until you get enough timer for at least 10 seconds to have enough time to steal that key. So once you do that, it should be again on one of the opposite ends. go ahead, take it, and that's pretty much successful. We're gonna then circle back around and go inside of the main courtyard, and the first place we're gonna hit is not the right side, which is going to give us one of the weapons, but instead it's going to be the barracks to the left side. So this is where the main chest is in. So open it up, go inside, activate the torch, and lo and behold, all the armor from all the soldiers in the game from this town is pretty much here. It's much better than anything else you can get up until much later in the game, and it can even carry you all the way into Kuttenberg. So very solid armor piece. Go ahead and just take whatever you see fit. Personally, I'm not gonna steal everything, just the pieces that I really like, so you can go ahead and select the same ones that I do. But whatever you do, also make sure that you don't leave off the main building either. So once you're done with this, head over outside and to the opposite building right here at the bailiff's office. Here we will get a very strong knight's longsword as well as the rest of the gear. So head over to the first floor to the last area here in the back, and once you open it, you're going to notice this chest next to the wall. Inside of it, you're going to find the knight's longsword, which is one of the best in the game at this point. It's also going to be helpful because we're going to use Master Strike in just a little bit, but also get all of these body codes later down the line into the chest, like the Ackerton short, which is going to complete that set for you. Or if you find any other armor pieces, go ahead and do so. And by this point, you're pretty much going to have the full armor set right here with some of the gear pieces you had from before, which looks something like this. Very awesome, very high grade, all of the bells and whistles that you need to further protect yourself. So now you can pretty much take on even the strongest enemies if you pay attention at what you're doing, and even more so, you can either use the longsword in the main hand and also have the axe and the shield as offhand weapon choices. So definitely something that you can go ahead and play around with. But from this point on, I recommend doing one more thing, well, a couple other things. So since you got all of this, now you need Master Strikes. So what I recommend doing is to head over to the Nomad camp right here further west. So I'm going to show you how to successfully get the Master Strike right from this level 1, because it's going to be quite difficult to get it, but I'm going to show you a trick to pull it off a little bit easier. So go ahead down by the camp at the location and just talk to Tomcat to complete the first part of the combat training. Once you do that, don't challenge him to the duel right away from this dialogue. Instead, say that you're going to come in later. And that's because once you exit this dialogue, the game will make a permanent save that you can, you guessed it, use it to load back in case you don't complete the next part of the mission successfully. Once the game saves, go ahead and now you can challenge him to a duel. And at this point, you can just repeat it until he eventually teaches you the Master Strikes. You're going to have to be very good at timing with your parries and constantly hit him so that eventually he caves in and loses the duel. Point at which he's going to teach you the Master Strike, which, like I said, is one of the best abilities in the game. I'm not going to fully explain it since the game already does it thoroughly, but basically just attack from the opposite side when the shield turns green as the enemy attacks you. If he attacks you from the right, do it from the left as that shield turns green, and you're going to both deflect that attack and hit it in one go, ensuring that you always hit the enemy even if it has a shield, for example. But we can now also retrieve the items from the chest that we talked about at the start of the video. So going back at the same location by the side of the nearby lake, there's gonna be a bunch of enemies here that you can go ahead and immediately dispose of, but if you go inside of the same cave, you're going to notice that the chest is still there, the weighted die is still inside, however only about 180 to 200 Groschen are still left from the 1400. I guess the developers were kind of expecting us to do this, but at least to get a couple hundred extra for you to go ahead and spend. And this is just from a quick 1 hour or so of gameplay. You now have one of the best gear, some of the best weapons, a ton of Groschen to spend on anything you want, so you're pretty much ready to go. The only other thing I recommend doing from this point on to complete the guide is to make sure that you immediately go and get MUTT back. He's an amazing companion, he helps a ton in combat. You can also use the bark mechanic later on to distract guards if you're sneaking into places, and even more so use the track and hunt mechanic to track down targets, which is especially useful in many of the side quests. By the way, his final location is going to be right here on this side of the map if you don't want to go ahead and explore every single lead that the game gives you. But be careful because you're going to have to fight a larger pack of wolves, so do make sure that you have some proper gear on. And also make absolutely sure that you loot this cave in the back, as you're going to get some of the highest charisma jewelry at this point in the game. So if you go ahead and equip the spectacles and the jewelry, you're going to easily reach 30 charisma, especially if you combine it with some of the Noblemen gear that we stole in the previous video. So now you're going to have a much easier time passing skill checks in dialogues, and also like avoid the law more often because of it. And that's pretty much it with the perfect start guide. Sorry it took this long, but if you enjoyed it, a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you want to see more videos like these, definitely also activate that notification bell. Maybe even leave off a like on the video. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.